Live.
Which is
Hi.
you and me.
Hello. We are live on the air. I'm going to see if we can connect the Uber conference. It's not going to let us. All right, we're going to give it a couple more minutes. 12 o'clock. I'm going to answer a question to Nancy. I can't. All right. Am I still going? They can give me a thumbs up or something.
Me?
There you go. You might want to mute yourself too, unless you have a question.
I'm ready.
Well, Nancy, I think you are you. Ben, do you still see the blurry tree?
Yep, I see that now.
All right. So, with any luck at all, we are all. Oh, I don't want to do that yet. I'll do a little countdown. I'm trying to go for the chat. All right. So I'm going to have the Q&A up, and if Ben and Leighton, if you have the chat up, you can shoot any questions to me that are being chatted out. We won't bother with the hashtag this time. We'll just do it this way. So I've still got 1 minute until 12 o'clock, so I'd like to wait until then, so people have a good chance to get on. Theoretically, we can edit this out. Ben, you might also want to monitor the email, the MPI email, the admin, see if anything's popping up there. All right, we'll begin. Welcome to our second Hangout on Google training for the MPI THCC board. Today we'll have overviews of the calendar, tasks, and Hangouts. We'll have Q&A turned on for the Hangout, so if you have a question, you can type it into the margin on the right-hand side. It will pop up on my screen and I can answer it directly. I see Cindy Smith just joined, so I will select her question and say thank you, Cindy. Thanks for being here. So that's how the Q&A works. You should also be able to type in your questions if you're simply viewing. If you're on the video call, or if you join the video call later, just raise your hand and I'll try to catch you and answer any questions that you might have. Again, we will save this to our YouTube account, and you'll be able to look at it at your leisure at any time to refresh your knowledge of calendars, tasks, and Hangouts. So to begin, we're going to recap a little bit from the last training on accessing your account. It sounds like maybe somebody's trying to dial in, which doesn't work. So yeah, that doesn't work. You've got to log in from the calendar entry. Someone's trying to call me in a Hangout. That's what that little tone is in the back. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen real quick and bring up a view of the screen. It's going to go nuts for a second. Wow! It did. All right. So are we seeing now the inbox? So you should. So this is how we've been getting into our Google accounts, logging into either google.com or to your Gmail account. Just a refresh of the memory, if you go up to the upper right-hand corner, if you've got multiple accounts, you can add them here just by saying add account and logging in, and then you'll have that available to you just at any time and can flip back and forth from one to the other. You can even have one account on one screen, or I use a second monitor and have another account on the other screen. So I have my AMI stuff over here and my MPI stuff over here at just about all times. Get rid of a couple of things here, so I'll go ahead and just back out of here, and we'll start getting into the calendar function. So if you're logged in at any time, you just go up here. It's going to almost always take you to the Gmail account. If you go up here to the grid up in the upper right-hand corner and click, it will pop down all the choices you have, including the calendar. You notice there are more choices down here, so you can always get to those. But we're going to pop the calendar up, and it should pop up in a new window. Thank you very much. And so we can see what's going on in the calendar. And there's a lot to go over today, so I'll stay moving right along. I can't see the Hangouts screen anymore, so if a question pops up, I'm going to ask Ben to help me out with that. So I'm looking at my screen right now. So what we see across the top is different ways to view your calendar. One thing I want to remind you of, though, is we talked about the collaborative aspects of Google, whether it be a Word document or a word processing document, a spreadsheet, or anything. It goes with calendar entries too. If you delete a calendar entry or change a calendar entry from a shared calendar, which most of these are, it goes away for everyone. So keep in mind that if you're trying to clean up your own calendar so it looks right, don't do it by deleting calendar entries. We're going to talk about how to do that right in just a little while. But first, let's take a look at how we can sort of view things in the calendar. Well, I'm on the week view, so I can see across this week. Here we are on Thursday. If I just want to go to today, if that's my preference, I can do that just by clicking up here. Again, I was on the week view already. If I want to see the month view, I just do it, just click on that, and you can scroll through the months very easily. If you just like a 4-day calendar, you can do that, so just the next 4 days. And then another helpful one is the agenda. So if you look at the agenda, it shows you the week that you're on. I'm going to go back a week, back to our week. So it shows us the week that we're on. And we can click through to them, but it just shows, it doesn't show the open times, it only shows what's been booked. So that can be very handy, the agenda section. The more is just to print the calendar or to refresh if something's come in. The gear over here to the right we're going to talk about a little bit more later, but that's where your settings are. Now I'm going to go back into the week view and show you a couple other things. Right here, if I just want to scan through different weeks, I can go back and forth through the weeks, but that also works if I'm on a day or even a month level. Just by clicking the arrow, I can go back and forth between those months. Another real handy thing is the mini calendar over here. Now I can make that pop up or not pop up just by clicking on the arrow beside it. But you'll notice I'm on the 24th, and if I want to look at the whole week, I can click on the week twice. If I want to just click on the day, I just click it once. So I can go back and forth just by clicking on the week, the line of the week, to show either a full week or show just a single day, and move around that way. Another thing that's kind of handy, if you just sort of want to look at the next 2 weeks ahead, I can scroll across. I can just drag across the 13th through the 26th in this case, and see all of the information that's on my calendar for those times. So that's pretty handy. I'll go back to a regular week view on today, and then the other thing that's really handy is, let's say I'm cruising through and I'm looking at when the TEC is going to be, and I find it there, and I find it, then I can always click on the Today button and go straight back to today. So that's another handy button that's right there. Now on the Create button up here, just above the mini calendar, I can create a calendar entry right here. I can also quick add. So creating a calendar entry is pretty simple. I'll go back here. This is the one that's kind of handy, is if I do a quick add, I can say lunch with Ben 2 o'clock tomorrow, to make sense of that. So let's see if it comes up. All right, so it read that, and you see right down here, I've got lunch Ben 2 o'clock tomorrow. So it uses regular language in order to be able to create a calendar entry on the fly. So that's very handy. You can also create a new calendar at any time. So one of the things that we've talked about internally and with the board is the ability to create calendars for your own area. What you're looking at now is what we call the administrative calendar. So it's got all the board meetings. It's got our Hangout here. It's got some tasks up here. So this is sort of an internal MPI admin calendar. But you notice I also have other calendars here on the side, and then there's even more down here. So like right now, I've got this is the support calendar. So this is basically the root calendar. Not a whole lot on it, but if I don't want to look at that anymore, I just click it and that goes away. You see, we don't have that. We don't have the double entry of the board meeting, and we don't have the double entry of the CVB ad. So if I don't want to look at my tasks, I can do the same thing. I just go ahead and click on them, and they go away. By the same token, if I want to see what's on, say, Elias's calendar, I just click on it and it shows up. Or if I want to see what's on the communications calendar, I can do that. So we can share those calendars, and it comes in very handy. So if I want to create a calendar, so let's say I wanted to create an education calendar, I would go to the button here beside my calendars, just say create a new calendar, and start filling it in. So it's really, really simple to do it. The main thing to remember is this a calendar just for you, or is it a calendar for your entire organization? So if you've got a committee and you want to set up a committee calendar, it's very simple to do this in your own account, in your own MPI account, and then say I want to share this with specific people. So I share the calendar, and I can see whether they can see all the event details, or whether they can just see whether I'm just not available right now. So that's so let's try to dial in. Sorry for the interruption. That's Lauren Lauren keeps trying to dial in, and that's not possible from how she's trying to do it. She's trying to actually have a video call with me, have a quick hangout with me, rather than logging into the Hangout On Air from the initial calendar entry. or the invitation. So I'm going to go back to the calendar, and we're going to talk a little bit about now that we've learned how to create a calendar, and it would just pop up here on the calendars. You know, you can also add a coworker calendar. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But right now, let's just talk about creating a calendar entry. Well, one of the easiest ways to do it, besides typing in the quick entry, is just to put your cursor over where you want the calendar to be. So I'm going to say Friday at 10 o'clock, I want to have a meeting. I double click, and it just opens up Friday, 10 o'clock. You know, I can throw in my test event, and off I go. So I'm going to toss that out. If I click once on Friday at 10 o'clock, it's going to give me a little short and sweet version without any real information. But I can do a couple of things, like put it on a different calendar rather than the MPI THCC, because I do have access to those calendars. But I would just plug in, you know, the test event and be done with it. So that's another way to do it. Once we go into the detail view, let's call this our test event again, and then we'll just sort of look through this a little bit. So, for instance, I've got the date. Well, I can change this date. I can change the time from here. I can have a beginning and end time. I can even change the time zone if I want to. I don't know why you would do that very often. I'm going to enter the location. Nothing to that. Now, one thing that's interesting is if I start typing like Attendee Management Incorporated, it's going to say, well, do you mean the one in Wimberley, Texas? And so if I click in there, that just helps give a little bit more direction, pardon the pun, on where you're supposed to go. Again, I can change the calendar. I want to actually put this on the support calendar instead of on the admin calendar. I can do that easily. And I can also, when you open your calendar entry, you will probably have, it will probably say add video call. We have ours set up to automatically add video calls to all of the events that we create, because it's just not that big a deal. So if I say add a video call, then it's going to show up so that we can, when the event comes up, and I'll show you that in a minute, you'll be able to just join the meeting. I can add any kind of description I want. I can add an attachment. So if there's an agenda for the meeting, I might type it in or paste it into the description, but I might also just add it as an attachment. There's a default color to my calendar entries, which is going to be the screen. But if I want this particular entry to be a different color, all I have to do is click on the colored square, and it's taken care of. The reminders, it's going to default to whatever yours is set for. Ours is a pop-up window that's going to pop up 10 minutes before the event. But if I want to add an email, I can, a day before, I can do that very easily. Just say, don't forget that meeting. You can also go in what they call labs, and we'll go into that in a little bit more detail later. You can go into labs and even add a text reminder. You can add text reminder, so that one of the options here, besides email and pop-up, would be a text. So that's I do that quite often if it's a really important meeting that I just don't want to miss, and that I might not be at my computer at the time. So available or busy. If I say busy, it's going to block it out for me. And then privacy is just generally stick with the default. But you can have a public meeting that anybody could come to if they've got the link to it, or it's a private meeting just among the people that you've invited. And that's where this comes in. So when we're adding guests, if I'm going to add Leighton to this, I just add a name. I'm going to add Ben to it, and so we've got a excuse me. We've got the guest here. Now, I'm going to say, Leighton, it'd be nice if he could come, but he doesn't have to, so I just click on the icon by his name, and he becomes not required, optional. I can also just say, well, yeah, not so much Leighton, so I'm going to go ahead and get rid of him, so I can X him off. Now it's saying that the calendar cannot be shown because I invited Ben and Leighton from their from their AMI accounts. If I had invited some people from the MPI THCC account, you know, if I invite, let's see if Cindy pops up. I want to do her VP of Education. So if I invite Cindy, then I would be able to look at her calendar if she had one set up, because we're in the same domain. It will also allow me to go in and suggest times. So by suggested times, now it's looking at anybody that is on the calendar. It's looking at Cindy's, actually, I'm sure, since she's within the domain, and looking at mine, saying, okay, we can meet at any of those times. But that can be handy if everybody's actually using the calendar. Now, we don't expect that to really happen, just because we all have our regular day jobs. But it's just something to know in case you ever look at going into Google for your own company or association. So now that I've got those people added, I can also say whether I will allow them to modify the event, which means that, hey, they can add to the agenda or add their own attachment. They may or may not be able to invite others to the event that I forgot, and see the guest list. So you have control over that whenever you need it. So you're giving them the sort of the rights and privileges to the account. Now, another thing that's up here. Let's say that it's that we're setting up the TEC, and it's an all-day meeting. So when we say all day, then now we don't have the times, and we can go in and pick the start and end dates. Now, if I can also cross over. If it starts at 10 o'clock on Thursday and ends at 11 o'clock on Friday, I can do it that way too. And so that becomes an all-day meeting with a start and an end time, and it will blank it out on the calendar. Now let's say it's a repeat meeting. Let me go back to just today's date. So I want to have this TEC planning meeting. I want to have my committee meet every Thursday at 10 o'clock until we say otherwise. So I click on repeat, and it's going to default to weekly every week. We've got it set for Friday, starts tomorrow, and never ends. But we can say, okay, we need it to end on November 7th, and then we're done. Then we've got, we can also go up here and select, other options. It can be a monthly meeting, a yearly meeting. It could be, every weekday. Can default to just on Thursdays and Tuesdays. So there's a lot of options there on the repeat meetings. Then one last thing I wanted to show is once I've saved this meeting. Okay, it ends before it starts. That would be a problem. That's why it's pink here. Let me just change that to the 25th, then we should be okay. So I saved this meeting, and I want to invite my external guests. I'm not going to bother sending them an invitation. But here's our TEC planning meeting in purple. Now let's say that I want to add that to another calendar. I can open it back up again, and now look what's up here. Now we've got this more actions. This was not here before. But I've got more actions, so I can change the owner. I can say, okay, well, I actually want this to come from Cindy now. I can duplicate the event and change the name, or this is what's really cool is I can copy it. So you know what? I want to make sure Elias knows about this meeting. He's, it's going to be on his calendar. But he doesn't have to come, or I mean, he can be invited or not. Now I could invite him here as the add guest as well, but if he doesn't accept it, it's not necessarily on his calendar. That's an option, in our settings, which we'll go into. But I just want to copy this over to the support calendar, and that's all I had to do. So that's one of the features that we use quite a bit. when we're planning our vacations, or it may even be something that we go in and say, hey, listen, my annual conference is August 7th through 10th. I want to put that up there so that everybody will know what's going on. So, and that's where you get into sharing calendars. So here's our main calendar here, and if I click on the arrow to the right of it, it gives me a few options. So I've selected my color. I want all my default calendar items to be that green. At this point, I don't want to display only the calendar. I want to see the others. I can look at my calendar settings, which we looked at a little bit before. Now, another thing that's interesting is that that you can get your HTML for your calendar. So you can click here and it will give you the HTML for the calendar that you could send to someone so that they could actually see your calendar. I'm going to go back to the calendar and go back to the sharing, because I could have shared my calendar there, but you can also share it here. So if I want to share this calendar, all I have to really do is enter an email address here and go after it. So for instance, I tried to share this calendar with Karen. She can make changes to the events. If I want to, I can add anybody, and I would suggest that as you add your own calendars and you start using your own calendars for your MPI work, to share your calendar with admin at mpithcc.org, so that we can help you out wherever possible. Go back to the calendar, see if there's anything I'm missing here. Okay, I can create an event from here as well. Oh yeah, and reminders and notifications. So I go into reminders and notifications and say I want by default it to be a pop-up. This is where it says 10 minutes. Well, if I want to change that to 30 minutes, that's all I have to do, and it will be it will be on every calendar entry. If I'm tend to be forgetful and I want a 1 day, a 12-hour, 30-minute, and a 10-minute reminder on every event, I can do that right here. I can just keep adding. I'm not quite that nutty. In this case, I'm getting emails on new events. I'm getting emails on new responses. Well, I can turn that off or on. And here's a nice one too: is I can go ahead and say I want a daily agenda, of everything that's on my calendar. So it'll send me an email with that daily agenda. So that can be very helpful. You can also set up your mobile phone to receive notifications. I get notifications on my phone and my iPad as well. So that's about sharing and notifications, colors. Adding a coworker's calendar is just another way to do it. You can actually add anybody's calendar that you can get. If you send an email outside of the domain, you can actually share calendars that way. So I can share my Google Calendar from AMI with our Google Calendar at MPI THCC. Now, one of the things about going domain to domain, it depends on how the domain is set up, because our domain is set up so that all it would show is that I was busy. So if I added my jeff@attendeenet.com email address, and I turned on the calendar on here, it would just have all my meetings, but it would just say that I was busy. It would be that color, and you say, well, I know that Jeff can't meet them because it's busy. But if you go into different domains, or if you were to hook up with my jeffrasco@gmail.com address and look at that calendar, I could set it up so that you could actually add things to my calendar or not. So it just sort of depends on how the domain is set up. But Gmail is pretty easy. And in fact, one of the things that I would suggest you do if you use a Gmail account, and especially if you use Gmail Calendar, or just a regular Google Calendar outside of the domain, is share your own calendars with yourself. Share your Gmail calendar with your MPI calendar and vice versa. And that way you can just go in and plug away and say, oh, okay, well, I want to just sort of see what's going on, and by clicking or unclicking your calendars over here on the left-hand side, you are quickly seeing what you've got on your MPI schedule and also on your personal or business schedule. So that can be incredibly handy. It's a very, very powerful program, and something that we use all the time. And it's in fact, if you were to look at my own calendar, my Jeff Rasco calendar, you'd see that I've got pretty much everybody in the company over here, so I can quickly see who's available and who's not. But I also have other calendars as well. It's a mess, but I still manage to keep up with it because it is organized pretty well. Now, the next thing, real quickly, we're going to go through is the task piece of this. Tasks can come in very handy for you. I've got a couple up here just to show you. You can see that I've got it here, but it also, if I've set a date, it's going to put it here. So teach Cherry K about chat, something we just talked about briefly yesterday, doesn't have a date. You notice that these have July 24th. This doesn't have a date. That's just an open task that that doesn't have any deadline on it. But these do. So have I prepared the Hangout on calendars and Hangout? Yes, I have. So I can check that off, and off it goes. I can also add it back on if I say, oh, I'm wrong about that. But it also crossed it off here. I still have to complete the dashboard for global later on. Now, I can also resort. I can refresh. I can also trash anything that's, I can tell it to clear the completed tasks or not. So there's a lot of things I can do with tasks that come in pretty handy. One of the things that I've heard that is a good thing to do is, put all your tasks up for the week. Don't delete them until you get to the end of the week and double check and see all the things that you've accomplished, and then go in and say clear completed task. And that's kind of a fun way to make yourself feel good about what you've done all week. And I know that you as board members do a lot each and every week. So that's a good way to sort of give yourself a pat on the back. So tasks are very simple. There's not much to it. If I'm going to create one, I just click in and type. If I click over here to the arrow on the right, it's going to pop it up so that I can set a due date, add any notes to it, and it's now it's on the list. So very, very simple. Have any questions popped up? Okay, we're good. All right, so then finally, we're going to talk a little bit about Hangouts, or what they call video calls. Video calls can really help.
There are actually quite a few questions coming in.
Okay,
Are you on the question and answer?
Let me go over. I haven't quite gotten to question and answer yet, but
okay.
I can take a couple of questions if they're. I was going to change screens anyway, so Andrea says, I clicked on where my photo would go, and the option of changing the photo comes right up. So she added her photo to her screen, which is great. Good job. Cindy says, okay, you upload to your Google Plus account, and then it should show up here. So that's how to find the Hangout. I'm sure that's what that one was about. So
yeah, most of them are about finding the Hangout and what should be seen right now.
Yeah, I think when we first logged in, you might have seen that blurry tree because we were not broadcasting. What it was doing was showing our tree logo in extreme close-up, and then once I started the broadcast, it went away. So you always have to make sure if you arrive early, you might see something. Just be patient.
Now, here's one that applies to calendars. Karen asks, how can we get on the other shared calendars, as I don't see the options for any others when I am in the Google Calendar?
If they're in the Google Calendar, in the They can add a coworker calendar. So if you might just start by adding admin at mpithcc.org, and that will add it to you. Or you can send us an email and say, hey, listen, I want to be added to the communications calendar or the admin calendar. I want to be able to see all that. You know, we'll make sure that you are. You can see it, but a lot of the times it's just between like a committee or any kind of a work group, and you might create a calendar that's just for your work group. It may just be for monthly programs, and you want to get your committee together. You may have registration may decide to have a calendar of their own, and so Nisha or someone on that team might create a calendar and make it available to everybody on the committee. And be able to invite people to work a meeting or any number of other things. So it's really easy to create a calendar, and then sharing it. You're either sharing it out to somebody that's on the list, or you are just adding a coworker calendar. If you go into that area where it says add a coworker's calendar, if they're already on there, it will. I mean, so that's pretty easy. That's assuming that when they set up the calendar, they said that they would share it. Okay, we have a how to upload. Okay, so there's some question and answers that are going back and forth that you're answering yourself. That's great. There's a question here from Cindy, I believe, that says, are our photos from the retreat stored on Google Drive for us to use? Yes, they are. Also, don't forget, you can just go to the MPITHCC.org website, go to the directors, right-click on a photo, and save it directly from the website.
On the Google Drive, I believe they're under the folder called Website, and then in a folder under that called Board of Directors, somewhere around there. I'm not sure if that's the exact path, but start by going to website and look for Board of Directors 2014.
All right. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen again. It's going to get a little funky, but I'm going to show you. We're going to talk about actually creating a Hangout and creating chat. So let me just go and share my screen again. Bear with me as we go into infinity here and beyond. All right, so when we're talking about chat and Hangouts, a lot of times it's easier to start with the mail side of things. So I'm in the mailbox now, and you notice on the right-hand side, you see beautiful pictures of all of our friends. And this is the chat part of Hangout. So if I wanted to launch into a chat with Leighton, I could do that right here just by clicking on his name and typing a message, hi Leighton, and he's going to get that on his screen. But if I wanted to launch a video call with them just on the fly, I could do that by just clicking on the picture of the camera right here. If I wanted to add somebody else to this, why thank you, Leighton. If I wanted to add somebody else to this message, we could have a group chat just by clicking on the person here with the name on here too. So I'll add. Somebody that I know is on the call. Well, never mind. Anyway, you can see how it's done. I won't waste your time on that. But anyway, you can have a group chat on the fly just like that. It's very simple. You can see here where we were in. I mean, this is a history, and so it's like this one here was. We had a group video call back last Wednesday. So I can go back and see sort of what was going on, who was there, and go from there. If I wanted to, if I don't see the person on my list, then I can go up here and search for them. I'll just search for, I don't think, yeah, Karen's on there. I'll search for Ben, and there he is. As I keep saying, if Google does one thing really well, it's search. But all I would have to do, if you see the little green dot, that means he's online. So I can just go in and say, hey, Ben, I want to chat, and then off it goes. So if you haven't chatted with somebody before, sometimes it's going to ask you to invite them to chat. And so you just send them a little invitation, and they'll chat. So that's all there is to it about sort of setting up a video on the fly. It's telling me now that I'm in a video call with a bunch of people. So that's good. That part's working. The other way that that we tend to launch a Hangout is from the application itself, or from the calendar invitation itself. So I'm going to go into our TEC planning meeting and see it's already got it set up here. So I've invited Ben and Cindy. If I'm the organizer, I'm going to want to get there a little bit early, and I'm just going to click that button, and it's going to automatically launch. Now I can't do it right now because it would it knows that I'm already on the Hangout on Air. So it would ask me if I wanted to hang up on the Hangout on Air, which I'm not going to do. But that's how you would do it. You just click that button, and you'll just be waiting for them to join. They'll join on their own. The participants in the meeting, besides whoever's running the meeting, organize it the same way. It's not like some web conferencing systems that the organizer has to be there first. Whoever gets there first just says join now, you're in it, and that's really all there is to it. Now, one of the things that I was saying, we've upgraded to the new Hangouts. The old Hangouts is more of a chat. It's not quite as functional. It's got some good things, but some not so good things. So you're probably set up in the old chat version. The other thing that we did is in our settings, we went into what's called the labs, which is up here on the sort of the right-hand side, and we've turned on a lot of these labs. The labs are somewhat experimental. Google is an open source software solution. So really anybody can write an application for Google and load it up and allow people to use it. So these are all things that have been created either by individuals. Here's an individual programmer, or maybe it's the Google team that did it. So we've got, these are the ones we have enabled. Canned responses. You can create a canned response. So that you can add like an auto signature. You can add an auto signature anyway. That's part of your email settings. But you might have a canned response that is maybe it's an addition to the auto signature. Maybe it's just a paragraph that you always use all the time. So those are canned responses. Pictures in chat. You see that you can see the pictures. That's because I've got pictures in chat enabled. I like the preview pane. I want to be able to see what those emails are doing coming in. So these are all a little bit different. And then this is the right side chat. So by enabling the right side chat, we're seeing these over here. Otherwise, you're going to find your chat information down in the lower left-hand corner. All right. So and then the other thing that's nice about the Hangout chats is that if you download Hangouts to your phone or to your tablet, let's stop the screen share now. If you download Hangouts to your tablet or to your phone, then it'll beep you just like if you use Facebook messaging or any of the others. It works pretty much like an SMS text message. And I get a Hangout alert, right to my phone, and I can answer it from the phone. But the same Hangout chat that I'm doing, like on the computer, is also going to be on my phone. So if I'm traveling or if I'm out away from the computer, then it's right there. So it is it is absolutely a great tool. It'll follow you everywhere, and depending on how you use it, it is a just well, it I can't say it's saved our lives or anything, but it's been it's been pretty darn useful. I just wanted to show. I don't know if you can see this on the screen, but like I noticed Jerry Kay just has that fixed smile. She's just beautiful as ever. Those are all up here on the top. These are so little quick hangout tools. This is the same whether we're in an an on-air hangout or just a one on the fly. But if I turn the camera off, then I'm going to revert to whatever my profile picture is and turn it back on. We always suggest that if you're online and not speaking, that you mute your microphone, because that can help a lot in the broadcast. I can add people, invite people straight from here, and then the gear is simply for if you're having trouble, it may be that your default settings are not correct. So the settings in here, are basically what camera to use, what microphone to use, and what speakers to use. So if you're not using the built-in in your laptop, you may have to change those for people to hear you right, or for you to hear. We have a question from Karen. What calendar is used to post chapter events? Right now we're using the MPI admin calendar, and that would be up to you guys actually. If we want a separate calendar that is chapter events, or a calendar that is devoted to industry events, we could easily do that. It's just one more to maintain. But you notice how easy it was, once you have that calendar built and you're attached to it, to create an event in one and then copy it over to the other. So we could keep the MPI admin calendar at this point is sort of the repository for all chapter information. But if there was a separate calendar, like there is a communications calendar already that Karen and her team have set up, if we want to take some of those things that are in the admin calendar and copy them over so that we're not recreating the wheel, that's very, very simple to do. Here's a good question from Nancy. It says, why does Cherry Kay's picture show at the bottom but the rest of ours is not? It's because Cherry Kay said she was definitely coming. We sent, and when I first launched this Hangout on Air, it said, "Do you want to invite people?" So I sent invitations, to the people that said that they were going to try to get there. So you would have had to respond to that. It was probably, and Cherry Kay may be able to respond to this better, but it may be that came in through a Google Plus as opposed to clicking on the calendar. So if you clicked on the calendar entry, you're joining the Hangout on Air, but you're not part of the panel. So I think there were 6 of you. I guess Cindy, Cherry Kay, Nancy, Lauren, Layton, and Andrea, that I did send that invitation to, but it was just as we were getting started. So the fact that you would have missed it is certainly understandable. Those are basically the controls over here. We've got, I can turn on chat, and Cherry Kay had a chat that she sent that said, I tried to use my iPad today and pull up Hangout, but it wouldn't let me. Well, with the iPads or your iPhones, if you're going to get into a Hangout, it's kind of confusing. If you have the Hangout app on your phone or on your iPad, it kind of thinks of that as the chat piece of it. Whereas if you're going to join an event, which this would be, it wants to go to Google Plus. So at least that's the way I understand it. We were trying to very quickly come up with a solution for that just before the broadcast, and weren't sure that we really nailed it. So, but I think it may be. And Cherry Kay, I don't know if you can here and speak, but you might explain, if you can, explain how you did join and why we see your picture there. May not have her microphone set up for be able to use it. So and then so I don't. Did Leighton? Did these show up? Did the icons show up on the left-hand side of the screen on the screen? You're muted, but it's okay. Oh, can't talk at work because I don't have a microphone. Okay, so she accepted the invitation that she got by email. So that's good. So if you're on the Hangout and you mouse over to the left-hand side, you'll see some icons over on the left-hand side. The top one is chat. The second one is screen share. So that's what we've been doing, is doing a screen share, and that comes in really handy. I strongly suggest that as you have some of your committee meetings and things, you don't always have to get together in the same physical location. This is a good way to have what is essentially a face-to-face conversation without having to leave your desk. We use it all the time for our staff meetings, and we've got people literally all over the country, and they all come into the Hangouts, and so it works out really well. And so we can screen share and solve problems together. We can chat. The Q&A is really great for this. It's not something that you would normally use, and there's some other tools as well. For our board meetings, we downloaded the app called Uber Conference. It does not work, we found out, on a Hangout on Air, but on a regular Hangout like we would normally have for a board meeting, we can do Uber Conference, and that gives us a permanent phone number that can be dialed into. So if you just can't get to the Hangout because you're driving or something and just want to dial in, that's always an option. But you can also, when I say you can add people, I can invite people up here in the upper side, the left-hand side, invite people. And when you say that you want to invite people, one of the options is that you can call them on a phone number. So if you know that they can't join the Hangout on video, then you can call them directly from the Hangout. So with Uber Conference, people can call into a number. And with a normal Hangout, we can invite people either to join by video. You can always opt not to have the video on. You can see on the bottom of the screen, Cherry K is we're just in a profile picture, and we're seeing Leighton stretch and relax. So Leighton's on live camera. Cherry K has the camera turned off, or doesn't have a camera. So that's an overview. We are more than willing to give some personal instruction on any of this if it will help. We can sit down with your committee. We can sit down with you and do sort of a train the trainer. I think I saw an email pop up that said that Lauren wanted to get some training on the Hangout, so we'll set that up as time allows. And we're very excited about this, and I think we're making great progress with the board. And as we get better and better at this, you'll see we already hear the feedback all the time that this really made a big difference. Thanks a lot. I can really see how this is beginning to work. So and it's all about the chapter going into the future. As we do our jobs, then we're going to make it that much easier for the people that come behind us. So we're very excited about getting this started. Congratulations to everybody for doing such a great job. We've got it looks like about 6 people on the call. We will send out the link that's on YouTube as soon as I stop this broadcast. It's going to post to YouTube, so we'll send that link out so people who are not on the call can look at it, or people that were on the call can review. And then we'll do this again. In a week or so, and our next topic is going to be on Google Drive and how we're using that and how we can make that better. In the meantime, hopefully we'll find out even more about how we get on through our iPads or iPhones to be able to access the online, on-air Google Hangout. So thank you very much for your attention. If there are no other quick questions, I will stop the broadcast, and we'll see you on YouTube. Bye-bye.